Let's get started.
J.C. Sherbert. Woo! 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 Woo!
Here in Columbia, well, it's been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherbert.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios and built by Barndo Co., the barndominiumco.com, where you can build your dream home for as low as $160 per square foot if you live in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee, the barndominiumco.com, some of the most unique plans for a new house you could ever possibly believe. Signorama, of course, is the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. Their work is all over campus in Columbia. If you've been to Founders Park, Williams-Brice, or Colonial Life Arena, or Stone Stadium, or anywhere, pretty much everything you see comes from Signorama in West Columbia, and we certainly are very happy to partner with those guys. So anytime you need something, a vehicle wrap, something for your business, something for your home, something for, I don't know, a graduation party, whatever it may be, Matt Vaughn's team is spectacular at Signorama. We use them. We hope you'll use them as well. We will use John Whittle in about 15 minutes with thebigspur.com as we preview the SEC tournament for Gamecock baseball. They are the 6th seed. They've got the Dogs of Georgia tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That's 9:30 Central Time. Quick programming note for all of you crazies about our program inside the Gamecocks, the show. We will be on the air at our regular time tomorrow. It'll kind of be a round table of discussion, if you will, as in like a live look-in. We'll all have the game on, and we'll be able to kind of fuss and discuss what we're watching and seeing and things like that. If any of you appreciate, my baseball insight, then you're welcome to join. If you appreciate JC's and his allotment of runs, certainly you're welcome to join there. And if you appreciate Classic Phil and his jabs at JC and me, then we hope you'll join us and listen to Classic Phil. No changes tomorrow. We thought about getting on the air a little bit sooner, but we're going to go ahead and go while the game is on. So we'll be watching and talking to all of you. So hopefully you can have us on a computer screen while the game is on TV or however you want to do that. Speaking of Phil and JC and JB, we're here until 1 o'clock this afternoon. We will make our way through baseball. We've got some football. We've got some golf and so on and so forth. And, of course, we'll answer any and all questions that we can in the Nana Sports chat box. And so go ahead and keep them coming. And, guys, I'll obviously teeing this up to let y'all take over here. But I do have a total breakdown of the history of Gamecock baseball in Hoover. We all knew it was bad. But it might be a little worse than some of you think, unfortunately, when you really take a look at the numbers. And so I'll give you all of that stuff here in just a little bit. So we'll see if they can get it going and if they can get a couple of wins and what that will mean and all that type of stuff. JC, Phil, what's up?
Good morning.
Yeah, it was a bad weekend on the diamond. It's a tough weekend. It was because you got some hope there in game 2 when the Gamecocks, they had 6 straight singles and powered out to that 6-1 lead and won that game, and then just kind of a collapse, there at the end. 12-1 was not close. It continues to trend in the wrong direction, but you have new life in the postseason. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's hard to call this a collapse right now because we don't know what's going to happen in the postseason. And if you have a nice run, people forget about that. But if you don't, I don't know. I think it calls in. I think there are a lot of questions that will have to be answered if this continues. But it just, Georgia's been up and down. Carolina handled them pretty easily in that series, in the opening series of for the SEC. But man, it's been a long time since then. And they got a really good freshman, Charlie Condon, same name as what was the Attorney General of the state of South Carolina, Charlie Condon at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
I went to school with his kids.
Yeah, another Charlie Condon running around there, but he's actually got for the freshman home run record. Georgia has beaten some really good teams. They took the series with Tennessee. They beat LSU in the game 3 the other day. They could be a problem, and it's single elimination. If you beat Georgia, I believe if you look at the bracket, I think it goes to double elimination. So you got 2 more games. at least. LSU and Whittle will probably talk more about this. I can't imagine them throwing their ace on Wednesday.
No, they won't. They won't.
It won't
No.
happen. And LSU is not a very deep pitching team. They can hit pretty well. James Hicks, of course, like he mentioned, is getting the start for the Gamecocks tomorrow. And so it goes double elimination. And, then once you get to the semis, it goes back to single. But, yeah, man, the SEC tournament's been brutal for the Gamecocks through the years. And it's tough to – and sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's like, well, it really doesn't matter. Because you have a regional host, it's top 8 seeds locked up or whatever. I do remember in 2004, the one time they won it, I think they were on the verge of getting bounced or losing the first game or something. And Stephen Tollison hit a home run. And they came back and beat Ole Miss. And then they went through the bracket and won the thing in 2004, beat Vanderbilt in the finals. So, it happened 20 years ago. So, if you can get through there, you can lock up a host seed. A host site. I think the magic number probably to feel super comfortable, just because of the number of teams with similar resumes. So how do you differentiate? Well, you'll probably go to how they finished or series record or whatever. I think getting to 40 wins, would make winning 2 would probably.
That'll do it.
Make everybody feel pretty comfortable. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's never a good thing, I think, when you're hoping for Hoover, to use some alliteration there. But it is what it is, and you got to go get it. So,
yeah, my thing is, history at Hoover aside, this baseball team has not won games on back-to-back nights in an entire month.
Mm-hmm.
The 422 was the last time, and that was the final game of the sweep against Florida. This team has not won 2 games in a row on back-to-back days.
On back-to-back days. They have won 2 in a row since then, but only once. That was Auburn and Winthrop in back-to-back games, the final game of the Auburn series and that Winthrop game in the midweek. Yeah, so I'm with you, JC. I don't think you'll be able to turn an SEC down as a host site if they're at 40 wins. And Carolina's going to obviously have to win a couple of games in the tournament to do that. Here's the history, and it obviously clearly is totally against them. They've lost 5 straight in Hoover. The all-time record is 29-51, and as bad as that is, here's where it's worse. First of all, last year they did lose by 1 run, 2-1 versus the Gators in 10 innings. They have been one and done in the last 3 tournaments, 1921 and 2022. They have not won multiple SEC tournament games since Coach Holbrook's final season when they went 3-2 over there in Hoover. They are just 6-20 since 2010 in Hoover. 3 of those wins, of course, came in 2017, which tells you since 2010 they are 3-18 in Hoover, Alabama. 14 of the 29 years that they have played in this tournament, they haven't won a game. That includes Mark Kingston, Chad Holbrook, Ray Tanner, June Raines. All right, it ain't good. 26 straight years of making the tournament, though, for South Carolina. That is the longest streak in the SEC if you want to find some silver lining. But from 1992 to 1999, they were just 3-13. The 2000 to 2004 teams, which, as we know, those were pretty good ball clubs, they went 14-8. And since then, just 12-30 overall in Hoover, 2005 until last year. They have faced Georgia 4 times in Hoover. They are 1-3 all time. And they last faced the Dogs in the SEC tourney in 2011 when Georgia beat them 4-2. Of course, that didn't matter. South Carolina won the national championship. Another piece of, I would, as it stands today, it seems to be like good news. I mean, you just don't ever know till you play the game. Jaden Woods will start for Georgia, and you might be wondering, well, why is that good? Well, he hadn't pitched since April 14th. He's been out with what you call dead arm, and then that kind of rolled itself over into shoulder tendonitis. And so he hadn't pitched, and you're over 5 weeks. So his first action, and who knows how long they'll let him go. He's going to get the start. How long are they going to let him pitch? Who knows? I mean, when you haven't pitched in 5 weeks in a game, generally they're going to be pretty careful with you. South Carolina, of course, did face him earlier this year. They have had success against Jaden Woods in his career, but the only time he's ever started to get against the Gamecocks was back in March. He did go 7 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. That was right when he was kind of kicking it into gear as their Friday night guy. And, of course, Carolina came back and won the game over there in Athens. So, he'll get the start tomorrow. James Hicks will get the ball for South Carolina, and they're going to hope that he's just, dealing some sort of masterpiece. And if not, they'll roll it over to Cade Austin, and we'll see what happens from there.
Old Jan says he'll look like Nolan Ryan tomorrow against the Gamecocks. Oh, Jan, you can always count on Jan, man. He's for those of you that don't know Jan is a huge Carolina baseball fan. He and Kevin are also in the chat box. They care more than your average Gamecock fan about baseball. And he builds a hell of a beer tree, too, when he's tailgating. But he's passionate, and so he's always good for a one-liner or two. He'll look like Nolan Ryan against us tomorrow. So.
Yeah,
good. So
certainly could.
It's
yeah.
So number 2 seed going to Coastal or Clemson.
Very possible.
Look, man, they get. I'm going to tell you this right now, and people. I hear the grumblings. I'm not going to sit there and talk about a coaching change or anything like that before the team plays in postseason. I mean. It looks a lot worse if you go to a regional after the start you had. Go on the road to a regional and get bounced by an in-state team.
Yeah, that'd be tough to climb. That'd be
tough to that. When you want to talk about, they used to have a commercial, bitter beer face, when you drink a bitter beer and your face would get all. So that would be a bitter pill. Everybody would have bitter beer face about that. I mean, that would be, especially if it's Clemson, because Clemson hadn't put the Gamecocks out of the NCAA tournament since the early 80s. It's almost 50 years.
Yeah.
Carolina hadn't lost a game in the postseason to Clemson since then. So, I mean, and a lot of times when coaches get in trouble and when fans turn against you, what you do is you start losing things. I mean, Will Muschamp, 2 straight opening losses. Carolina had lost exactly 1 season opener since the second year of Lou Holtz. Okay. And that was that A&M debacle. But that was it, and Muschamp starts losing teams from North Carolina. Gamecocks weren't realistic. See, even the most modest accomplishments and owning Clemson in the postseason is far from a modest accomplishment for this team. Because they knocked one of the best teams probably the best team Clemson's ever had out. Mm-hmm. That team was ticketed for the national championship. Shredded them. Yeah. By 8 runs, 16 runs. Okay. But you start losing that can get that, even though that was a long time ago, 21 years ago, it's something that you lose, and 10 years ago when the Gamecocks put them out, 11, 12, 13 years ago when they put them out in Omaha, then the regional when they put them out in Columbia, you start losing things like that, all of a sudden, that's what that can really get a coach in trouble, I think. And, if you're sort of looking at what needs to be avoided, if you're Mark Kingston, as far as us, and I'm not saying that if they go to the Wake Regional or whatever and get bounced, that it's not, that everything's hunky dory. I'm just saying that, the nightmare scenario here is you get sent to Conway, Myrtle Beach, or you get sent to Clemson and you get bounced. I mean, and what a bitterly disappointing end on top of everything else, to the season that would be. But hopefully, because I spoke that into existence, it doesn't happen. Because a lot of times when I say things, the opposite happens. So hopefully the opposite happens there.
Yeah, it's look, anything can happen in the postseason. Last year, this team is better than that Ole Miss team last year. Ole Miss was the last team to get into the tournament. They won the national championship. So, they're obviously playing to try to get hot at the right time. And that's where it is. I mean, it's a little, it makes you feel a little bit uneasy when you get asked about this tournament and you hear the staff say, well, look, we're trying to thread the needle here. We're certainly going to try to win games, but we're really focused on the postseason because the fan side of thing is like, hey, look, man, like we were maybe the best team in college baseball towards the end of April. And now we're talking about, I mean, we're in the postseason, but now we're talking about going on the road. Like, be nice to have a regional at home that you earned for the first time since, 2016. I know they hosted in 2021, but that was kind of by default the way that it fell with COVID. So, I see every angle here, and certainly can't blame the coaching staff at all for trying to get them positioned right for once they get into a regional. But with all of that said, it sure as heck is going to be a lot easier to be able to play a regional at home than having to go on the road. I saw in the chat box a little bit ago that, people, I don't even know if Coach King believes what he's saying about we should be a lock. People kind of fussing and discussing his comments, rightfully so. I understand that. Here's the thing, though. We all understand Coach speak. Like, the last thing he wants to get up there and not defend his team wholeheartedly, regardless of what has happened over the last couple of weeks. He's got a job to do. His job is to vouch for his club publicly, fight tooth and nail, and make sure that they understand that he's vouching for them. That's his job. And he's going to do that regardless of whether fans like it or not, whether I like it, you like it, anybody else likes it. So I get what he's doing. Makes sense. Don't blame him. That will play zero into the committee and what they will be trying to do. They are still absolutely in the conversation to host, but I'm with you, JC. And I think even today, I don't think they would get one personally right now at 38-17, but just based on how they've finished. But there are so many SEC teams that are in this conversation now. I'm with you. I think that they win a couple of games in the tournament, as far-fetched as that seems, with all the stats I just rolled out in their history in Hoover. I just don't see how you can turn an SEC team with 40 wins down. And by the way, in order to win 2 over there, you don't have to beat LSU, but it sure would be nice if you had a win over LSU amongst those couple, because you basically would have taken the season series against LSU.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes it 2-1. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have to hit a timeout. John Whittle is on the way to Hoover, as a matter of fact. So we'll get him by phone in car somewhere on I-20. God bless him for making that ride. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show. It is powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston, electricbikescharleston.com. We'll be right back. Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The real estate market has changed dramatically from just a year ago. Rates, supply, demand, all of your traditional factors are in a transition phase. That's why if you or someone you know are considering making a move in the low country, contact me, JB, at Coast to Coast Realty. I work with an outstanding support cast of attorneys, lenders, inspectors, insurance agents, and more, all of whom are valuable in helping find a way for you to comfortably make your real estate decision. That's right. Call me, JB, your low country real estate broadcaster. Building your dream home is often just that, a dream. And sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated.
Traveling to cheer on the Gamecocks? Reserve your hotel stay with Fan Plans. Your booking supports Inside the Gamecocks and the Big Spur, plus you still earn your hotel loyalty points. Visit fanplans.com/Inside the Gamecocks.
What's up, Gamecock Nation? This is Jakar Moore from the DMV, and you are listening to the show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show presented to you in the first hour by Cindy Searfoss and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Give Cindy a call, 864-414-5271 for all your Upstate residential real estate needs. And, of course, we are joined, as we always are on Mondays, even though he's on the road, on the McKellar Enterprises guest line by none other than the guy who almost nailed the preseason overall record, even though he did nail the wins. I'm sure you can't account for the canceled game. God almighty, guys, I can't freaking speak today from Monday. Look at this. Foibles, mess ups. But morning, John Whittle. How are you?
Well, I'd be doing a lot better if I had a little picture or something up there in the top right corner of my screen.
I know.
Oh my God.
Phil's been
everybody's a freaking critic. Yeah, how's that?
There we go. I look a lot better now. I look better than usual.
Yeah, the little mouth that moves at the bottom of that circle is actually pretty funny.
I know. Yeah,
it's like Knight Rider. It's like, hello, Michael.
That's right.
Oh,
Michael,
man.
I'm picking up some very disturbing comments.
John,
it's
here we go, man. You know, it's we all know what the SEC tournament has not been for South Carolina, which is successful. They are just 12-30 in Hoover since 2005, and of course, all time are 29-51. Lost 5 straight over there. They have not won multiple games in this tournament since 2017. I'm going to ask you the one question right off the top that everybody really wants to know if we can get it answered. Where is South Carolina in the hosting conversation now? And if they win a couple of games over there and get lucky for the first time, pretty much ever, and get to 40 wins, does that lock in a host for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, right now I think they're on the outside looking in, and I think the projections will bear that out, as they roll out. Mark Etheridge tweeted the other day that the SEC since 2012 has had 2 teams have 16 wins and a 16 RPI or better and not be a host site. And South Carolina has both of those things, but so do 3 other teams, Alabama and Kentucky and Tennessee. They all have that same mark. And to me, in my estimation, it seems like the SEC will get 2 hosts out of those 4 teams. I think 5 are pretty wrapped up. I think 7 is probably what you're going to see from an SEC host standpoint. I guess I can't rule out 8 just because this has been kind of a funny year in college baseball. There are very few teams out west that have a host resume that is adequate. So maybe the SEC gets 8, but I don't think that's something the NCAA is going to want to do. So I think it'll be 7, and I think South Carolina's 2 or 1 of 4 teams vying for those 2 spots. And right now, with the way South Carolina's played, I think they're on the outside looking in. So they do have a few advantages, but they need to go out on the road and win a couple of games in Hoover, in my estimation, to feel reasonably good about their host site chances, which are announced on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the more unique SEC tournaments we've had in a while, John, because how often, not recently, Carolina really has just glossed over this thing. It has, at the end of the day, really meant nothing to them because of the situation that they were already in going into it, and there really wasn't a lot that was going to change with any type of success. But now, as you just pointed out, there's 5 teams who are going to be in the postseason, but in what direction are they going in the postseason is what could be changed via this tournament, whether they're hosting or whether they're on the road or whether they're a top 8 national seed or not. I think those seem to be solidified to this point, but they're all kind of playing for the same thing over there, John. So, I don't know what to make right now of the Gamecocks. You're going to see Jaden Woods tomorrow. He hadn't pitched in over a month. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. This ballpark doesn't really play well to South Carolina's offense. Have you picked up anything as to where they are mentally after another series loss this weekend?
I'll be honest with you, Jamie. I think they're fine mentally. I do think it's worn on them a little bit, and they're a little bit frustrated by the losses. But they're not. It's not a bad locker room. They're not turning on each other. There's no talk about that. The vast majority of this team is very, very engaged. Still believes in themselves. Still knows that the group that was number 3 in the country is still right there. Still in that clubhouse. I don't want to give off the interpretation that they're content with where they are, but they're not a group that's panicky and trying to and they're not a group that's turned on each other. I still feel like team dynamic is good based on the conversations I've had with people over there in the building.
Okay, James Hicks is going to get the ball tomorrow. John, what are we expecting here? I mean, I hear James Hicks and then going right to Cade Austin. I mean, aren't they kind of hoping that James Hicks can give them more than just a few innings? I mean, are they planning to move to use Austin early in the ball game, or what's the deal here?
Yeah, they'll go with Hicks as long as they can.
Okay. Right.
I think that I think they can probably get 75 pitches out of Hicks, right in that range. I guess he pitched on Saturday, if my memory serves me right, against Tennessee, and he threw a few pitches, but he didn't throw a lot. He's thrown a significant amount of innings and significant amount of pitches over the course of the season. I think he can give you 75 if he's going good. I don't see 100 out of him at all, but I feel like if he's going well and has that sinker working and getting some ground balls, I think he can go for a little bit.
How does this ballpark set up for a guy like James Hicks? I mean, he hasn't been early season or even mid-season form James Hicks lately. We all know that Hoover plays pretty big, although last year a few balls left the yard. But how does it set up for a guy like him who's kind of trying to find it and hadn't missed a lot of bats lately?
No, he hasn't missed a lot of bats. He's found a lot of barrels for sure. I think it's more about the Georgia offense in terms of the matchup versus the ballpark. Georgia's a team that likes to try to get the ball in the air and drive gaps and hit home runs, and of course everybody likes doing that. But Georgia is more of a power team, or tries to be at least, and they've got some real power guys in Tate and Condon and so forth. So the hope is that he's got the sinker working and can get those guys hitting ground balls instead of line drives, and so I think it's more of a matchup deal with Hicks. If fly ball pitchers are usually okay in Hoover because not a whole lot of balls leave the yard, but Hicks being a ground ball guy is good against the Georgia offense.
Yeah, for what it's worth, and those wondering, James Hicks did have 2 appearances against the Dogs earlier in Athens, 1 1/3. He did not give up a hit in that series. As for the Carolina offense, John, I mean, obviously, game 1 was rough, and game 2 was rough until they finally broke through in the 6th. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, I like how this looks because they finally strung together a bunch of quality ABs, and they're hitting the ball hard on the ground and in the gaps, and it just felt like a club that was starting to feed off of each other for the first time in a while offensively. And you thought, okay, all right, you got to win. You're going to go into game 3 here, and maybe you can continue a little bit of that. Obviously it's good when Carolina leaves the yard once or twice a game, but it was really neat to see them string together some hits. And then they were once again just brutal in game 3 against Drew Beam and that Tennessee staff. So, the offense, the lineup was the same in all 3 games. I don't know if that's the lineup they're going to stick with in the tournament or not, John, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is right now offensively. I mean, they've had 1 good inning in a while. That's it. And it just looks like from a confidence standpoint, from 1 to 9, there ain't much of it there.
I mean, it's hard to argue with anything you said. I go back a little bit to matchups, like we talked about with Hicks being probably a good matchup for Georgia. Tennessee was a bad matchup for the way South Carolina likes to play offensively. When you think of South Carolina and what their identity offensively is, what is it? It's grinding out at bats. It's working pitch counts and trying to get those up. It's taking walks, taking your hit by pitches and so forth, and getting a couple of well-timed home runs mixed in there too. I mean, that's South Carolina's offense, right? Well, what does Tennessee do well? They throw strikes. They don't walk people. They don't hit people. They overpower you. They strike you out. South Carolina's a team that obviously strikes out a ton, and it was a bad matchup for those guys. And of course you can go back to Arkansas, and there were a lot of the same results against Arkansas, but South Carolina's not going to be facing Tennessee tomorrow. They're not going to be facing Arkansas tomorrow. The LSU staff is a little bit easier than South Carolina's staff, minus Tennessee's staff, minus the Paul Skeens. Georgia's staff is a little bit easier to manage. Those guys play into South Carolina's strengths a little bit more. I think last week was a really bad matchup. They got the only guy they got to all weekend was Chase Burns. And what did Chase Burns do? Chase Burns walked a couple of guys. He got behind in counts, and that's a key to keeping South Carolina's offense quiet. And when they're not able to work pitch counts, when they're not able to get deep into bullpens, when they're not able to get walks, they struggle. And that's a big part of the reason why South Carolina struggled against Tennessee and really Arkansas too, because Arkansas is very, very similar in that same way.
John, we're at the point of the season, of course, is not over. Carolina is very talented, and they are talented enough, as we all know, to make a run in the postseason and make somebody's life a little bit uncomfortable. But now that the regular season itself is over, it is really, really, really hard to look at the statistics amongst all the programs in this league and see one team with 548 strikeouts, and that is the Gamecocks. They struck out 548 times this year. Nobody else was over 500. I think the closest was Tennessee, as a matter of fact, with 492. I don't. That's insane. And they also had a fairly lethal offense for the large majority of the year with all those strikeouts. But John, when it ain't clicking and you're striking out that much, and when you do make contact, it's not putting any pressure on the defense. It's not hard to figure out why they're not scoring a lot of runs.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. And, to make it seem even worse, South Carolina played one fewer game than most teams. So
yeah.
add another 10 strikeouts on there, and that number gets even worse. But yeah, I mean that's been what the South Carolina offense has been this year. You know, when you go deep in counts, you're going to strike out, and they've got swing and miss guys, and you know we talked about that a little bit on the Big Spur at the start of the year. Like, I mean, I thought Gamecocks might challenge the single season strikeout record, to be honest with you, and you know he's out of those woods at this point, I think. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of guys who strike out. You know, when you take a lot of when you do a lot of taking and not a lot of battling, and then you know that's kind of what happens. And you know this team doesn't really have a two-strike approach that's real different than from you know what it is the rest of the count. And
yep.
you know that's something that needs to be evaluated this off season, but that's not a trait of this team. You don't see guys choking up on the bat and going the other way with something with 2 strikes. You don't see them battling off pitches just because they're close. If they think the pitch is a ball outside, then they're going to take it. I mean, most coaches will tell you want to try to foul that pitch away and get something better. You know, South Carolina's going to say the strike zone is the strike zone, and if it's not in the strike zone, then I'm not going to swing. And umpires have been calling them out, and sometimes the strike zone that they think it is isn't actually the strike zone. So, you know, I think that's something that probably needs to be evaluated a little bit this off season, and maybe some tweaks made. Obviously, for a long time, the strikeouts didn't really mean too much, but you know, when things have gotten much poorer here lately, it's obviously a big deal. But you know, it's another trait of South Carolina's offense. They don't have a whole lot of deer. Monty talks about buffalo and deer, and knowing what kind of guy you are at the plate. You got your power hitters and you got your speed guys. South Carolina doesn't have a lot of deer. There's only a few guys who can put the ball in play and beat something out and put pressure on the defense. So, you know, is Ethan Petrie hitting a weak ground ball to second base, you know, a good thing, or would you rather him try to keep trying to do damage on a 2-strike fastball or breaking pitch or something? I don't know what the best answer to that question is. I think I do. So, you know, that's part of the reason why there's so many strikeouts, but it's certainly been a big deal this year.
Buffalo and deer. I like it.
Yeah, that's Monty's
Buffalo.
thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's buffalo. It's some animal like that. I know it's deer. I know deer is one of them, but I think it's buffalo. I don't know. I'll have to go back and see that.
Man, I may get Ted's Montana Grill for lunch since you mentioned the bison burgers. I may roll that today.
Yeah,
I want a bison burger with cheddar.
Well, and I'll tell you what too, John. I mean, it does seem to me like, you know, let's say this wasn't the SEC tournament this week; it was the NCAA regionals. I'm just really finding it hard to figure now that Jack Mahoney's probably not your game one guy. I mean, John, you got to win game one in a regional. You have to win game one in a regional. And it seems like that's probably going to end up being where he fits in. I look at this bullpen now, and John, I just I don't think it's that good. You know, I mean, that seems so strange to say because as we started the season, halfway through the year, 3/4 through the year, whatever, you felt like, well, that's the strength of their team. I don't know that their bullpen's very good, John. I'm not sure that it's been. I'm not a big question the coach guy, at least publicly. I don't know that it's been managed well in game. But at the same time, I don't look at these guys and think that the next guy that runs out of that bullpen is just going to shove it where the sun don't shine. What is your make of what what do you make of what you've seen out of this pen the last month or so?
Well, several things. First of all, I think from a pitching staff standpoint, if you look back at last year, I feel like they got a lot. I think they got all the blood out of that turnip last year. I thought the staff got everything they could out of the coaching staff. Got everything they could out of that pitching staff. This year, I feel like there's been some meat left on the bone. I don't feel like that they've gotten everything they can out of these guys. Whether it's guys taking a step back, whether it's guys not necessarily being in the right roles or being in a spot where they can be the most productive. There's been a lot that's been left there, in my opinion. So I'm going to agree with you that things haven't been as good as they could be from a pitching standpoint. That being said, I was looking the other day. South Carolina's 29 or 28-1 in games that they've led after 6 innings. So that tells me the bullpen's done a pretty good job. They haven't blown leads late in games. There was the one against LSU that they lost on giving up some runs. I think it was the 8th inning, maybe it was the 8th or 9th inning. So there's been one blown game, but the bullpen has done its job for the most part. Whether they have the guy who can come in and be Matt Price, and he might walk 2, but he's going to strike out the other 3, or he might walk 2, but if he's going 2 innings, he might strike out 5 out of 6. But I don't know that they have that guy, but they've done a good job of getting the outs at the end. And obviously they haven't been as good here in the last month. Nobody's been good in the last month. I mean, the pitching staff hasn't been good, particularly, but they have also kept South Carolina in position to win 5 of these 6 SEC games. I mean, the last one against Tennessee obviously stunk for various reasons, but the other 5 they were right in the thick of it for. They didn't give up more than 5 runs, and Matthew Becker didn't give up. Only one of the 4 runs he gave up on Saturday in Game 3 was earned. So, they haven't been as good, but they've been all right. And it was Auburn, it was Kentucky that were really bad. But to me, the pitching staff's done okay. And I think last year you saw that the pitching staff being so shorthanded really affected them in the midweeks, right? Like South Carolina couldn't win a midweek game. This year, the pitching staff has been good for the most part. They've won their midweek games, and most of them in very fine fashion. What's happened these last couple of weeks, you take 5 or 6 innings out of Will Sanders and put that on the bench, and you take the 3 or 4 out of Eli Jerzenbeck and you put that on the bench, and those guys have to be made up for on the weekend. And now you've got guys pitching against North Florida and against Charlotte who you haven't seen since February or haven't seen since March. And what happens? You lose those midweek games. So, yeah, the staff isn't performing great right now. I don't worry about them too much. You kind of get the reset before regionals, especially depending on how deep you go into this tournament this week. You get some guys some rest. You probably get Will Sanders back, and I'm not saying that he's pitched great this year, but if you can get 5 or 6 decent innings out of him, that's 5 or 6 innings that you don't have to get from somebody else who may not be able to give you decent ones. So I think the pitching staff is still going to be fine, still going to be good, but they certainly haven't been as lights out, especially the last month as we thought they'd be, and as they were coming out of Florida when they were leading the nation in ERA.
Any thoughts on if they win the game tomorrow, who they'll throw in Game 2?
That's a really good question that I don't have the answer to. I was actually
come on, man.
I was thinking about that earlier. It's like when that game got moved back from Thursday, and you use Eli Jones Thursday and throw him. I don't know right off the top of my head. I think it was about 85 pitches. That's not a small number. Are you going to move him up 2 days? I mean, I think you probably do, and hope you can get another 80 pitches out of him, and hope he's okay. But he hasn't really been stretched out, to that degree until until these last couple of weeks. He threw a career high against Arkansas, which was 92, 94, or something like that in pitch count, and then he threw in the mid-80s last week, and then to ask him to bump up 2 days is a little bit of a challenge, but I think that's what you've got to do. So, no Will Sanders this week. I don't know if y'all passed that along yet or not. Kingston confirmed that earlier today before they got on the bus. Kingston also confirmed that Noah Hall is out for the year. So, it's not that anybody was counting on him coming back anytime soon, but there was some thought Sanders might be ready to go at some point this week. But, I think it'll depend a little bit on who's used tomorrow. But I think you probably got to ask Eli Jones to bump it up a couple of days and see how he does.
Yeah. If he does, if he pitches Wednesday, John, they're not going to throw him again in the tournament. So he'll have 9 days before he's going to get the ball again, if not more than that, in a regional. Because I'm of the, let's say best case scenario here. Let's play this thing out. Best thing that could possibly happen to the Gamecocks. They beat Georgia. Eli pitches and beats LSU, and they're all of a sudden they're 2-0 and they're in the winners bracket. Well, if you're moving Mahoney up maybe a spot too, both of those guys, while they're being moved up, it is also going to lengthen the amount of time between their next start in the regionals next weekend. So they'll still have plenty of rest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. That's absolutely true. So hopefully LSU doesn't think that same way, though, because then they might throw false schemes on Wednesday, and South Carolina certainly doesn't want that. So
no.
I don't think you want to put the cart before the horse if you're a South Carolina fan and chalk up the Georgia victory just yet. But if you do, you've got LSU looming, and you don't want to see schemes. He threw 113 or 115 on Thursday against Georgia, so you don't want to see you don't want to see him. You want them to hold that guy out. But your point is certainly true that they will have more time to. Anyone who's used early is going to have plenty of time to rest up before the regional.
All right, final one here. If they get beat tomorrow, which would be another one and done. This will be their 6th straight loss. If they lose to Georgia in the tournament, it'd be their 6th straight loss in the tournament. Seemingly, it in my opinion, it assures them that they're not going to be hosting a regional. Any speculation as to where they may travel to, near or far?
Well, I don't think that they will be sent to Clemson. And turn it around to the other side. Like, if you're Clemson, especially if you do well in the ACC tournament, you're looking at what, a 3, a 4, or 5 national seed based on how you finish the season. Like, and you're gonna have to face a South Carolina team that is probably going to be 17, 18, 19 when you consider where they're standing or where their final standing is probably going to be in the eye of the committee. Like, I don't see the committee doing that to Clemson. I know that these selection committees like to kind of spice up some matchups from time to time, but I think the teams are too far apart in what you would want to be able to consider that a fair matchup for a team that's going to be one of your top national seeds. So I don't think that South Carolina is going to go to Clemson, even if they lose on Tuesday to Georgia, tomorrow to Georgia. But I do think that South Carolina will probably stay in the region because they try to give the favorable matchups to the 17, 18, 19 in terms of the easier host site, so to speak. And maybe it's Coastal, maybe it's East Carolina, maybe Campbell can still get back in the hosting picture. I think maybe it's there. I don't know where South Carolina will end up. I would be really surprised if it's Clemson. I'd be really surprised if it's one of the top handful of national seeds.
Well, it probably won't be, with the exception of Clemson or Wake, because they're not going to go to an SEC school. So, that leaves those guys. That leaves Virginia. You mentioned Coastal already. We'll see what happens with Boston College. There's still a host of scenarios that could happen. So we'll just have to see how the conference tournaments play out this week. All right, John. Well, I did mention this earlier this morning on 107.5 The Game. I'm sure you'll agree. Although Carolina didn't finish well enough to get the 5 seed, I sure as hell will take the 9:30 a.m. local first pitch than the 11 o'clock first pitch over there. That's for sure.
Man, it will be nice to have the first game of the day. There is rain in the forecast for a lot of the day tomorrow, so it may be a long day at the ballpark for me, but at least I think I'll be the first one covering a game. So we'll see how that goes. But that's so much better. I've been in that night game, that last game of the night, way too many times. I'll pass on that.
Absolutely. That's the last thing you want to do is be the night game, sitting around all day. We've watched teams play till 2, 3 in the morning over there. That just ain't good for anybody. So get it in and get it over with. And if rain backs it up, it backs it up. Maybe that saves some arms for you, but we'll see. John, do your best to pull them through. They need a couple more wins to try to be playing in Columbia next weekend.
I'll do everything I can to have an impact on the game tomorrow, and I think that's going to be very minimal.
Okay, that sounds good. Safe travels, my friend.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There you go, John Whittle. Thanks, John. Big Spur on the way to Hoover, Alabama, where it is a great ballpark. It's a unique park. It's history. It's tradition. There still is absolutely nothing to do there outside of spending time in the Hoover Mall or sitting at the ballpark. So if you ever go to Hoover, take an RV. You'll be drinking it a lot while it's raining.
I've been many times.
Yeah.
I've never been in the SEC tournament, but I've been in that stadium for a football, Hoover High School football, actually.
Yeah.
I remember I mentioned Joe McKnight the other day. I saw Joe McKnight play there. They kind of have they make it into a football field, and Hoover played whatever Joe McKnight's school was from Louisiana. Joe McKnight was awesome. But I've been there for SEC Media Days so many times, and you're right. It's like you get Chick-fil-A in the mall, and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
How exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot. That's why you take – that's what LSU figured this thing out years ago. They just take their RVs and they kind of hope it rains so they can drink more by just sitting out under the awnings of their RVs, and that's what they do. So, yeah, we'll have to see what Carolina does. I mentioned JC mentioned to Bill this morning. He was asking me about the tournament being played in the morning. He said, "What's that like?" I said, "Well, it sucks. I can tell you that, to get up and have to be at the field at 7 a.m. Nobody wants to do that, but you would rather do that than when you've got the nightcap, which is that was the two scenarios for them based on the 5 or 6. So if you've got the 4 game in Hoover, you have so many ways for this thing. There's the bracket right there. So many ways for this thing to run long. You have the game itself, like extra innings or just playing slow, whatever it is. You've got rain and lightning. And so, when you once one game gets backed up, they all get backed up, right? We've seen this before. I mean, we've been up a few years ago. Carolina was playing at 2-something in the morning. So, our time. So 1-something their time. But what you don't want to do is get to the ballpark. Let's say that 5:30 holds true, Alabama, Kentucky, and then it ends up getting, which would be 4:30 their time, but being pushed back a little bit. So you get there around 6 o'clock, 6:30, you start getting loose, and then you don't even get on the field till 11 o'clock at night. You don't want to do that after sitting in a hotel room for 6-7 hours or walking around the mall. It's miserable. So if you can play in the morning, and that's what they'll get to do tomorrow is play in the morning. And then good news, if they win, they'll play in the morning again on Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, I can only hope that they, I don't know. We've said it. This team has shown the ability to play great baseball, and they need to find it tonight before
Yeah.
before they throw first pitch out tomorrow, And I mean, you still have postseason ahead of you, even if you do lose in the tournament. That's the good thing. You've played well enough to, at least make it to the tournament, even though you may not host a regional. But golly, you really want to get to 40 would probably, I agree with what y'all were saying earlier. I mean, 40 probably does it looking at everything going on here, and that's what you need.
I'd be shocked if 40 didn't do it. And look, like with this ballpark too, this is one of the things, I know we got to go, but like this is one of the things that I'm a big fan of the power game in baseball. Like I love guys that can hit the home run. Of course, who doesn't? And South Carolina is as good at it as most, but the 548 strikeouts, this is where the approach that Whittle is explaining can get you into trouble, because think about this for a second. Outside of where you're going to play a regional, which unless you're hosting, you don't know where you're going to go. You do know where the World Series is, which is in Omaha, Nebraska, and you know where this tournament is. So two of the possibly 3 or 4 different venues you'll play in the postseason are in very, very, very large ballparks that play very big. Hoover plays large, Omaha plays large. So you can't just constantly and consistently rely on the long ball. Now, South Carolina has the second most walks in the SEC, which is one of the tops in the country. And as John pointed out, like they will wait on the walk. Like they think they know their zone. This is the zone. If it's not there, they're not going to swing. The problem is the 548 strikeouts. So like, here's the difference. LSU, while they have 3 more walks than the Gamecocks do this season, they also have like 100 less strikeouts, hence a 310 batting average, and Carolina's 275. So that's the difference, right? Like you've got to be able to play in a ballpark that plays something other than the long ball. And LSU is really good at that. South Carolina has guys who are very capable of doing that. They just haven't done it. This is the zone, we're in the zone. And as John pointed out, the approach very rarely changes, it seems, with this power type club. And that's something like, can they just flip that switch and kick it into gear tomorrow? My instinct says no. I mean, I've been around this game a long time. You kind of already are once you've played 55, 60 ball games. Can you get hot? Well, of course. So, we'll just have to see. But that's the thing when you have that style of offense, there's got to be a middle ground. Like you've got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to adjust. And I'm talking about at bat to at bat, which will allow you to adjust ballpark to ballpark to play a different brand of offensive baseball when you need to. And South Carolina just hasn't really been able to do that. So we'll see what it looks like tomorrow against the guy who hadn't pitched in 5 weeks. But certainly offensively, it's been pretty bleak over the last few weeks. So with that said, though, Phil, it is 12 o'clock, and I've just talked us all the way through the top of the hour. So we'll hit a timeout. I know we got to catch up on some breaks and things like that. We can continue this. I know we've got some recruiting to get into. The story of the weekend, quite frankly, in sports was Michael Block, what happened in the PGA Championship. He flew the freaking cup yesterday for a hole-in-one at 15. That was one of the more unique and hair-standing moments I can remember recently in sports. If you happen to see that, wow. So everybody hang tight. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2, coming up. Inside the Gamecocks.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for a karaoke partner, I can tell you, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. But what I do have is a very specific set of skills. Hang up now, and your IT nightmares will continue. But stay on the line, and I will find you. And when I find you, I will fix it. Thanks. I think I have the wrong number. I'm trying to call Matt at Heritage Digital. He has a one price, low cost turnkey solution for all my IT needs. And I'm sick and tired of my IT guy. So yeah, 843-699-1001. This is 1002. Oh, well, thanks anyway. Don't be taken by some IT dude that talks a big game. Give Matt at Heritage Digital a call, 843-699-1001.
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Hey Gamecock fans, it's Evan Stone from Gamecock Baseball. A couple of painters paint the show garnet and black every day and get the job done right at a fair cost. Go to letmepaintsomething.com for information and an estimate. Go Cox!
You heard Evan Stone, Gamecock fans. 10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Oventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering inside the Gamecocks, the show. The real estate market has changed.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is Pitcher Noah Hall. If you want some delicious food for your event, I suggest visiting nanasporch.com today to find out what they all have to offer. It's really good Southern cuisine based out of Charlotte, my hometown. I hope you guys go check it out. Go Cox and go Nanas.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. The home of Oventon, Velotric, Magnum Bikes, and more, they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. Their electric bikes are equipped with 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle, so you can ride longer, handle the heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available for all ages and sizes. Visit electricbikescharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant if you're in the Low Country. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey everyone, this is Jack Mahoney from Gamecock Baseball, and Inside the Gamecocks, the show is teed up every day by travelingcountryclub.com. So if y'all love golf, make sure you guys go check out their awesome membership options, and go Cox.
Welcome to travelingcountryclub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to travelingcountryclub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. In July, we're excited to bring to you the 3rd annual Plunder on Pawleys 2-day golf tournament, with rounds played at Caledonia and True Blue golf courses in the heart of Pawleys Island. Head to travelingcountryclub.com to register for that event, and it is not exclusive to TCC members, but to become one, you can sign up and bring to life your golf game. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, travelingcountryclub.com, travelingcountryclub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
This is Zachary Davis from Carolina Hoops, and you're watching the show with JB, JC, and Phil. Go Cox.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Second hour of the show coming at you now. I was trying to find a little video of that hole-in-one, but I was so close when we picked winners with Meredith on Friday and missed it by 1 stroke with old Mr. Hovland.
Yeah, I texted her. I texted her. She was all over Schiffler, and she's like, Kopka. How do you say it?
Kepka.
Kepka, Brooks Kepka. She's like him the whole season. So Well, Meredith obviously knows a lot about golf because she's been close. I mean, think about her predictions, and she's in Masters and now this. And she's been pretty close. So,
Well, Brooks Koepka is
yeah.
the best player in the game right now.
Yeah.
Now that he's healthy again, he's something. He's some.
He's a live guy. Am I right?
Yeah, and the thing about, like, hats off to Brooks too for yesterday, like making it about him winning it and making it about the tournament and the PGA Championship, because like I used to have a ton of respect for Greg Norman, and he has to get on Twitter and go on this whole rambling rant about how Live belongs and this, that, and the other. Like, nobody ever said that they didn't. If they didn't belong, your guys wouldn't be in the tournaments. So, I mean, it's like, Bryson DeChambeau, and not a lot of guys out there like him anyways, but, just like the way that they've like created this divide, like y'all left to go to Live, and now you're trying to say that, what are you saying? Like, we feel like we don't belong. Well, you left. You left the PGA. You left to go do something different. Like, you turned in your card. So, like, it's all generically made up bull crap that, like, ESPN has picked up on, of course, and that's all they want to air is, oh God, Live versus PGA, and yet it's just a joke, So hats off to Koepka for keeping it like straight and narrow here and going, hey, yeah, I hear you, but really, it's kind of about me. Like, I played good golf today. I played great golf this weekend. I won the PGA Championship. Like, yeah, this does something for Live, I guess, but hats off to these fans. I mean, like, quit asking me questions about this, it's insane. That some
the
of these
shock
reporters
begs to differ, though. Greg Norman is the shock, and he's going to be. I'm going to get on the tweet machine and stir some stuff up.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do here. Like, I just think it's a joke. I mean, just whatever. Nobody really cares. So, I mean, yeah, he's Craig just said in the chat box, Koepka. I don't like Koepka, but he's amazing. I'm with you. I mean, I've never really personally cared from him a ton based on what I see from a distance, right? But man, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday to my buddy who writes for Golf Digest, and I was like, dude, if you took the best players in the world, let's say the top 10 players in the world, top 15, whatever you want to do, however you want to cut that up, regardless of what the ranking is. I'm not talking about just based on how they're ranked, like the best players in golf, and you gave them all their A+ game, JT, Rory, Koepka, so on and so forth. The best players in the world, they all are going to play their A+ game on one course. It doesn't matter what course it is. I don't think anybody can beat Koepka in his A+ game, and everybody else is too. Like, he's that good of a player. Very, very similar to how, the Tigers of the world once were and things like that. I think JT would be close, but Koepka is just, he's something. He is something.
Oh, we got some recruiting stuff.
Yeah.
In the chat box, Clint has been all over it today. He's been pretty active. Okay, so the question about the mystery defensive end. Okay, and the question was, is this going to be a guy that will just get in the portal and automatically commit, or is it going to be a guy that you have to battle for? I'll just say this: the more that is known, the more of a chance it'll be a battle. So I'll go there. And I know you guys are going to continue to ask me about it and all, but I think, as has been the case with a lot of these portal guys, the outcome is probably what's important. People the other day were like, the big Spurs, there were some rants. I don't understand this secret prospect stuff, and you guys aren't doing blah, blah, blah. And so I'll explain it really quick.
Shut up.
Okay.
Get a freaking life. Okay. Get a dog or a turtle or a cat.
Oh, by the way, one thing I did do this weekend, besides make progress on our patio we're building, I opened the turtle habitat back up outside. So Lizzie, her summer home is open. I just want to give a shout out. She's no longer my co-host right here beside me. But so here it is. Okay, so you can't sit there and put things out that could be damaging to the process or affect the process negatively or positively. Either way, it's unethical. It's not right. You're dependent on sources to do this job too. You don't want to burn them. And so people are like, well, why say anything at all? Why are you playing? Why are you playing these games? Well, it's not a game. Because if I don't say anything, everybody's going to sit there and rip the coaching staff for they're going to act like they're just sitting on their hands, eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew and doing nothing. So I have to tell you that there is activity, that they are, they're on it. But I can't, I don't want to get into any details about it. So that's that reason there. And so, Braylon Russell, obviously 4-star running back, I think from Arkansas, is visiting. I don't know what the Gamecocks' chances are. Dowell Loggins is on him. Got him to visit. Clint says you need a home run hitter, and he's not that guy. I don't necessarily think a home run hitter is necessary. I think you need a good, talented running back and several of them. I don't think anybody's going to catch Braylon Russell if he breaks into the open field. I think you're talking home run hitter. I mean, Braswell's probably that guy, given his nice speed that he's got. And this kid, Matthew Fuller from Georgia, he has a 10.7 900 meter, which is for a 220-pounder really fast. I mean, that's fast. Jay Beauchall's school. So if you're looking for breakaway guys, but Clint, I don't agree. I think at this point, running back, you just need talent. You don't have to go and go, oh, we need CJ Spiller out there. I think you need talent. And I think Daniel Hill's very talented. I think that Fuller's very talented. I think Russell's very talented. I kind of think Russell's a long shot. But I think that that's what they need at running back. It's, you start splitting hairs with a quote-unquote home run hitter. And I know you liked Peyton Lewis, and Peyton Lewis is a very fast back. But at this point, you just need play. I mean, you need people that can play. Mm-hmm. And good backs, even if they aren't like 4.4 guys, good backs will hit the home run. Marcus Lattimore is an example of that. Marcus is probably a 4.7 guy on a good day. But his angles and the way he could break free, nobody'd catch him in the open field, would they? So that's the deal there. So I don't necessarily agree that they have to have this, CJ Spiller type of back or whatever. So there we go with that. Clint says you don't need 4 or 5 of the same types of backs. Yeah, well, you do have diversity in that room already with, even with Braswell and Joyner and Anderson and all that. But you got to have, you just got to have, you got to have guys at this point. So that's the wheel.
In regard to running back, though, JC, like, is there anybody that we can look at who we've seen play, not just, speculative like Braswell coming in, that we can at least take a little hope in the fact that, okay, Hardesty, really does good player eval. So even if the guy's not coming in a high star ranking, is there any concrete proof that we can trust it, a la Torian Gray and what he's done with the secondary and those freshmen?
And Phil, that's not necessarily a knock on Monterey Hardesty.
No. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was a receivers coach at Charlotte. And so there's just not the track record there to say, hey, he's a great evaluator or he's not a good evaluator. Like some guys, like I think Des Kitchings at running backs coach, very good evaluator. I thought Bobby Bentley did a really good job evaluating running backs while he was here. I think Jay Graham gets a lot of credit for signing Marcus, but Jay Graham also signed Brandon Wilds, who had one offer from Arkansas, as a fullback. And I didn't really think Wilds was that good. I mean, honestly, I think I rated him a 2-star. Boy, I was wrong. I stand corrected. So some running backs coaches are very resourceful in finding guys. Some aren't. Sometimes it's a crapshoot. But, we'll just see. Sean asked, JC, I know y'all signed Stone Blanton to Carolina Rise. Is that renewed every year? Is it a year-by-year basis? We don't get into details on that, but I'll just for that purpose, for Stone doing the Heritage, that was a partnership, an advertising partnership that we facilitated. So we paid him a fee to do the commercial. He did the commercial, and that was that. And we do a lot of kind of one-off stuff like that. We do some monthly stuff too, but it's it's with stuff like that, that's usually what that is. But don't want to get any further details about that and all that good stuff. So, Lance just wants a Kevin Harris. Bill says,
how many people
JC,
were celebrating Kevin Harris when he signed at South Carolina?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I took, dude. There were people just trashing the kid.
I know. That's what people do.
Beat a guy. You got beat out Army and Navy for him. Well, he's 215 pounds and runs a 4.4 and jumped 41 inches. That's why
I would consider beating Army and Navy a good thing because all they do is run a damn ball.
Could you imagine if Kevin Harris had gone to Navy?
I think every military school in the country offered him, if I remember
correctly. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Carolina. But could you imagine if he'd have gone to Navy and played in that offense? My God. He may have rushed for 1,000,000 yards if he was healthy. I mean, that guy in that league, he would have torn it up and in that system. And as far as Bill and, talking about Clint's evals, I respect Clint's evals. Because you know what? What if nobody cared enough to eval? And what if nobody cared enough about recruiting to have an opinion? I wouldn't have a job. Well, I'd have this job. I could just sit here and talk about whatever, do voices and stuff. But I'm fine. Anybody that wants to eval is fine with me. I'm not always going to agree with it. We got rankings coming out on 24/7 Sports today that probably make some of your heads spin because they're not ranking the state correctly. But I'll leave it at that. But it's okay because that's their opinion. And I'm glad people care. So that's the deal there with that. But
sorry for having an opinion, pal.
Pal's opinions.
Harry Doyle.
Yeah. Harry Doyle. Sorry for having an opinion, pal.
Sorry for having an opinion, pal.
Yeah, Joel.
Tell him, Monty. Bill's our money.
Yeah, right.
Take over.
Dynamite drop in. Money.
Dynamite drop in. Dynamite drop in.
That broadcasting school is really paying off for you.
That's right.
Ground ball out.
Oh no, it was
took over.
It was a ball that was hammered into the gap in left center field. Fly ball. Caught.
That's right.
Guy laid out like Griffey. Caught the ball. That's
that was such a. I may go watch that movie this afternoon.
It's so funny.
It's been a long time since I've seen it too. I may have to go and watch that.
Bob Uecker is the best, man. He's still so good.
Quantrell says maybe the camp season will bring up some new offers at running back. Maybe so. Maybe so for 2024, especially 2025. Gamecocks did offer. I think this guy's going to be the next big running back out of the state because he's 20.
Here we go.
From Broome High School.
I'll only be 50 when he's playing. I love all these 26, 20. Man, they just offered 2027 7th grade safety. This dude's going to be a stud. I'm like, I'll be dead by
7th grade.
I saw 2027 in a big Spur article the other day. I'm like, my God.
I just can't, forgive me because I know someone's going to get angry at me for saying this. Like, of course, I keep up with recruiting, JC. You and I text back and forth about this every day.
Oh yeah.
But when offers and stuff go out for 2, 3, 4 years down the road, we don't even know what this team's going to look like in freaking August. God only knows what could change between now and then. I'm like, whatever. I totally dismiss it.
And I'll tell you why they
get
do
excited
it.
about that.
Here's why they do it. It's like Kelvin Hunter. Okay, so by the time anybody else figured out that Kelvin Hunter could play ball, a 4-star safety from West Florence committed to the Gamecocks. The Gamecocks were so far ahead because they offered him as a sophomore that he was going nowhere else. And so it was certain guys. I mean, this guy, Marcus Lattimore, picked up an offer from South Carolina. I think Carolina was his first offer after his 9th grade year. And I think this kid from Broome rushed for 1,036 yards, 23 touchdowns, 7.3 carry. For those that aren't familiar with Spartanburg County football, let's just say the Centurions are kind of there with Chesney and Landrum as far as and Bowling Springs to a certain extent. Those programs that haven't done a whole lot. But Bowling Springs. But Bowling Springs really doesn't have any excuses because it's a bigger school. Broome's a 2A, 3A school. But Jalen McGill, he got his offer. And, sometimes guys like that, you do need to get on early. And I think this is a guy to get excited about down down the road, and he's probably the next great one. Just looking at who's in, not saying there won't be another run pop up that's good or anything like that. But he's probably the next great one out of the state. See, that hadn't happened in a while. I mean, think about it. So you had Marcus. Okay, you can go a couple of years, and then you had Tavian Feaster, who was a 5-star, but didn't really end up having a 5-star career. He's solid for Clemson and Carolina both, but didn't really have a 5-star career, and there just hadn't been anybody. I mean, it's been interesting at that position in the state. So the Henderson kid from BHP looks pretty good too. Guess what they say. So that's it there. So anyway, that's
All right, 12:25. We'll hit it. Yeah, I guess we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Do that. All right. Let's hit our first time out of the hour. Teed up by travelingcountryclub.com, the coolest club in the Carolinas. Play golf in the mountains or on the beach. travelingcountryclub.com. We'll be right back.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer, go Tiger.
The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Hey man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
This is Cole Messina from the Yardcocks. Electric Bikes of Charleston powers Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Be sure to check them out online or in Mount Pleasant. Go Gamecocks.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Looks like somebody's vying for Hale McGranahan's position. We're going to bring Hale on, and then
you don't want any of that. You don't want that smoke.
You don't want to come after Hale stuff.
Don't let Hale fool you, man. He's a former MMA guy.
Oh yeah, that's the absolute truth.
Yeah, he killed a guy one time. Never
So-and-so killed a guy. Boy, that escalated quickly. Biff killed a guy.
Biff killed. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
What's his name? Well, I forget Steve Carell's character's name in.
It was
in Anchorman.
Anchorman. Oh shoot.
The weather. He's the weather guy.
The weather guy. Yeah.
Lamp. I mean, it's like.
Pee pee poo poo.
Jeez. I mean, what a
Brick. There you
Dorothy
go.
Brick. Yeah, Brick.
Brick killed a guy.
Yeah.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. I love that. I could quote that all day. So
Don't worry, we'll be able to quote plenty of it in July. There's nothing to talk about.
we're just talking movies. All right, movie talking time is coming here in a couple of weeks, folks.
All right, you take a shot. Then tell me what you're thinking of after.
Yeah, like, hey guys, movie trivia and stuff. But
top 5 season.
We'll go back and go through. It'll be our list season here. We'll go through our list.
I will say I told you we watched Air, and then what night was this? Probably, I guess it was Thursday. Yeah, when Carolina got bumped to Friday, so Thursday night we watched. You had to pay for it because it's still not totally out of the theaters yet. But Carrie and I watched Guy Ritchie's The Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, it was $20, but it was worth every daggum penny. That movie,
really
wonderful.
I'm writing this down. The Covenant.
Yeah, it's good. It's on Amazon Prime. I mean, you got to spend $20. Or you can just wait. We didn't feel like waiting. I wanted to spend the $20. I'm glad I did. It was awesome, amazing.
Guy Ritchie, good director there. But Quantrell asked who's responsible for ranking the state of South Carolina for
JC is Quantrell.
I mean,
yes, he is.
No, it's all JC.
I wish
JC and Hale.
I wouldn't have Troy Stevenson in the top 247. I mean,
Quantrell, do you want Hale to kill you? I wouldn't question his rankings. I'm just kidding.
Hale, and Hale's not involved either because he's probably not too thrilled about it. I think Andrew Ivins has a position where he's kind of up there. I think Brian Doan gives some feedback, but I can't hang it on one person because I just don't know. And I really, 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 I'll give you my opinion on rankings all you want, all day long, and tell you when I think they're wrong. But I'm not. I try to, because of what I used to do, I try to kind of not go crazy and try to sick the fan base on anybody, even if I do strongly disagree and really kind of slap myself in the head sometimes about some of this stuff.
Well, I mean, but like Quantrell's got a point here, though. I mean, it's not even just the South Carolina side of this. Like it does boggle my mind as to why there wouldn't be a little bit of it, maybe more. JC, maybe you can explain this emphasis on the opinions of those that cover the state, like from Clemson and South Carolina, cover recruiting in this state. Why, if it's not already this way, I don't know. I have no idea how this works, but why would they not say, hey, JC, hey, Hale, hey, so-and-so from Clemson, what is your evaluations of these top 10 guys here, and then go from there? Why is that not more of a, why is there not more of an emphasis on that?
I mean, that's how we used to do it. Now, you have to be somewhat careful because you got guys that work in these states, like especially like a state like Florida. I remember I used to go round and round with the Florida guys, and I ended up being right about a bunch of these cats. But you got to be careful not to make it, like you can't just call up your Georgia Bulldogs guy and say, who do you like? And then it ends up being the Georgia offer board, first 1 through 14. And that's not really reality. I'll give you an example, like Michael Smith is going to be pretty highly ranked. He's a kid from Georgia going to South Carolina, things like that. You wouldn't go and say, oh, well, Georgia got this other tight end from in the state, or maybe they're thinking that he'll flip to Georgia. Who knows? But, I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe that's their speculation since Georgia lost Landon Thomas to the Noles. But you got to be careful with that. But at the same time, when you got a guy that has 0 in-state offers, that's 155 pounds, it's a safety that really you don't, a lot of his other offers really aren't. I mean, you don't know. This reminds me of this kid, Hakeem Flowers, that played at Phil's alma mater, Wade Hampton. Hakeem ran up like 40 offers, like Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, based on this film that was sped up a little bit. where he looked like faster than you know what. So teams from out of state will throw out verbal offers to get in the game. Well, he camps and he visits and he camps and he visits. By the time it was all done, none of those 40 offers were committable, except NC State just kind of took a flyer on him, and he ended up quitting football after a year. And I never ranked him high, and I caught a lot of hell. But I never ranked him high because it did not make sense. And you gotta, especially in a state like South Carolina where there's just not a lot of players. You know, I mean, having a guy like Troy Stevenson ranked ahead of Cam Pringle, for example, who, you know, if he hadn't gone to South Carolina, he'd gone to Alabama, Ohio State, somebody like that, is a little bit disconcerting. They do, you know, Kelvin Hunter's going to be in the top 247, but man, when you have him below Troy Stevenson in the state as a safety, you know, you're not really even like evaluating the position correctly. I guess they're going to have him as a corner, but I'm just like, man, if he was good enough to play in the SEC, Torian Gray would have offered him, you know, and they haven't. I'm not saying they won't ever, maybe they will, but I just don't know. I mean, I'm kind of beside myself about that, you know, that particular ranking. And, you know, like Braylon Staley, the kid that's probably going to Clemson from Aiken, the receiver, I get it because he's fast. You know, I don't have a problem wherever he's ranked. But the Stevenson, this Cam Pringle below Stevenson thing is just, I don't get it. I don't know that anybody else will have that particular ranking from the state of South Carolina. So 24/7 will definitely be an outlier. But, you know, that's the thing there. Clint says, so you're saying Monroe Freeling wasn't the best player in South Carolina this past season? Jamie?
No.
I'm with Jamie on that.
Look, man, I'm not good at predicting futures necessarily, but might end up being outstanding at Georgia. Might be coached well enough, but I would, you know, to get there, I have my doubts.
I will.
You better be a tough nut to play offensive line in the SEC, and size is there. Looks good, doesn't he? Gets off the bus good. So
I'll say this:
gets off
Georgia.
The bus good.
After Freeling, like right around the time Freeling committed last year, spoke with a good source close to the Georgia program, and they thought Cam Pringle was night and day better than Monroe Freeling, and they really had him up toward the top of their board. Stacey Searles, when he came in and was looking at Lenore Sellers for a while, they went by Woodland a couple of times. I mean, Georgia had him pretty highly up there. So, you know, Xavier says what's funny, you have Clemson players saying they didn't want Cam Pringle that bad because he isn't that good. As players or fans?
Hopefully it's not
players. I don't know. I think any Clemson person with a brain, and they realize that they lost out on some offensive line talent this year in the state. But, you know, on that note, Clemson I think this gets overlooked a little bit just because of the way Dabo hires coaches, and it's been successful for him, just kind of promoting from within or whatever. But not all promotions from within are created equal. And I was talking to a good Clemson source really twice this weekend, and he made a good point. They've lost some really good recruiters and haven't necessarily replaced Venables, Todd Bates, you know, Thad Turnipseed off the field. He's kind of the info. He's kind of like Taylor Edwards is for South Carolina. You know, Robbie Caldwell used to be able to recruit really well. You know, Jeff Scott is no longer, you know, a receiver. Now he's back. He's back in town. But so I can kind of get that. I mean, as good of a recruiter as Dabo is, and, you know, their success speaks for itself. They probably don't, you know, they're probably in a situation where they don't have quite as much firepower as they once did in recruiting. And you're running up against, with South Carolina specifically, a bunch of guys that can recruit with a few exceptions. So that's my take. I you know, who knows what Monroe Freeling will ultimately be, but I mean, it's Georgia. They're going to develop him, right? But Yeah, I'll take Pringle and Thompson. I'll take Marquis Anderson
Well,
last year too.
A couple of things to remember about him too. While he was a quote unquote in-state guy, he wasn't. They moved here from the Pacific Northwest, and Carolina down the not even down the stretch. They never really pushed for him. Neither did Clemson. So, there were a lot of schools outside of the state of South Carolina that did, and that's where he went. So hats off to him. He's a good kid. He's a good kid. So we'll just see if when that helmet is on, if he is meant to be an SEC tackle or not.
Yeah. And BD asked if we're still doing the mailbag. Yeah, what we struggle with sometimes is like your longer emails and stuff. Sometimes we don't always have time to get to it. But I have read it, and so has Phil, and so has Jamie. And your points, I think Whittle, as you said in the chat box, your points were well taken and right and correct. And he ended it with up the Cox, which is always awesome. And that's not our guy. That's not our guy from Australia either. So I wanted to acknowledge that, because sometimes the longer ones we don't skip over them, but then it's kind of like saving. Like, I'm going to save this meatloaf for tomorrow. That reminds me of I Am Legend when Will Smith was like, I was saving that bacon. Good God. I was saving that bacon. But, you save the meatloaf, and then, I'll eat it Wednesday, and then something comes up, you don't eat it. And then by Friday, it's, you're like, it's probably old. So you throw it out. But I wasn't going to throw out your thing there. Now, we do have 2 iHelp Consulting mailbag questions on Twitter. One's from Brad Crawford. He says Covenant was awesome.
That's not a question. That's a statement. And I agree with Brad. By the way, Brad will be on our program tomorrow as well at 11:30. We of course will be doing our kind of in-house analysis of Gamecock baseball versus Georgia. So hopefully you can split screen us, but Brad will also be here tomorrow to talk some football, and I'm sure Brad would love to talk baseball as well. He's a baseball fan. So.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it. And Brad, actually, if Carolina does get sent to Campbell, he's got he lives up in Eastern North Carolina. So
yeah, that's
Campbell
right.
ECU. Now I looked.
I don't know.
And I'll ask Brad this too, because he probably knows. Is Campbell going to be one of those where they have to move it to like Wilson, like the minor league park? Because I just looked at their stadium. And I'm like, well, the Gamecock softball stadium is twice as big as this.
Yeah, there a lot of times they'll only approve, if you have earned it and your bid, of course, is in there. You'll have to put that in your bid that says, hey, look, we're planning to bring in X number of seats to Bowie's Creek where they play or whatever. Like, so Duke, for instance. I don't know how Duke can host if they earned one. Like, let's say they win the ACC tournament, and all of a sudden they're right back in the thick of it to host, and I can't remember what the conflict was with their home ballpark, but they also can't play at the Bulls Stadium because they've got games that weekend. So Duke's like, well, what do we do? So I think they're somewhere that's like an hour away, but are they going to really? That's just a sticky, really difficult spot. And that's what I was mentioning the other day is you don't want to be the team that gets it by default, but, like SEC programs, like those that are in this alongside Carolina, Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, if there's a team that's close to them that, when you get to the off-field stuff, actually putting on the tournament, you will get committee members in there who are just going to give the nod to a program like that because they know, number one, their facility is clear. Number two, they know what is going to happen in that facility, which is going to be packed out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what Carolina 2021. That was because of the Virginia COVID laws, because they weren't allowing any crowds.
They screwed them. Yeah.
Yeah,
State of Virginia screwed
Old Dominion big time, and then Virginia got sent down or whatever. But it's interesting for Duke. I would guess. It ends up being like maybe they could go to Greensboro or Hill or something like that. That would be interesting. Duke hosts a regional at Chapel Hill. That's happened in basketball before. Duke's been a number 1 seed, first and second rounds worth the Dean Dome.
Yeah.
So,
and Duke, I don't know. I mean, there's just so much that's going to be decided this week. But Duke losing that series at Miami this weekend, that was tough for them. They were a 15 projected last week. Miami was a 13. Miami's only strengthened, and Duke's probably this week's projections. You're probably going to find Duke out of there. South Carolina's probably going to be out of there. Everything else should stay the same. Who jumps in? More than likely, Auburn will jump in, and probably maybe Tennessee.
Yeah, Beatty. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I called him Beatty because he changed his first name to Bink, and it's not Brian, and I got confused. I knew it was the same person, though. My bad. But, yeah, you got to have that stadium, and so who knows how it'll work out. The Gamecocks.
Campbell last week was a 2 seed projected at Clemson. So
if I'm Clemson, I don't want Tennessee to get sent to where I'm at. But I'd be shocked if they did that to them.
I don't know.
It's gonna be interesting.
Tennessee, look, man, with who's Tennessee have, Phil?
I wrote that here. I got it right here. Look at that.
They had
A&M.
A&M. So if they beat A&M, and then they get Arkansas, and they beat Arkansas, boy, it's gonna be hard to keep them out of there. It'd be hard. That'd be difficult.
Honestly,
to keep the balls out of the host.
I mean, I think Tennessee, regardless of where they're sent, with the way after seeing what I saw from their pitching staff this weekend, they could get on a run and end up in Omaha. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they ended up in Omaha.
Well,
you could say that about any of the higher ranked seeds in this first round. South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, all of these. If they win 2 games, look out.
Yeah.
So you got. Well, I mean, think about Kentucky, for instance. Like Whittle was laying out the scenario earlier, being a top 16 RPI team. Okay, going back to our conversation on Friday, I'm not sure if you caught this or not, JC, but Kentucky has now lost 6 of 7 series to finish the year. They lost to Georgia, they lost LSU, they lost A&M, they got swept by Vanderbilt. They, of course, beat South Carolina. Then they lost to Tennessee, and then they lost this weekend to Florida. So you're talking about 6 of 7 of their final 7 SEC series that Kentucky has lost. And last week they were still projected as a 10 seed. So is that enough to knock them all the way out because their RPI, is up there with Carolina's? You're talking about an RPI that's, currently right now sitting at number 2. South Carolina's at number 6, right? So it almost feels like in the tournament tomorrow, Kentucky has the 8, Bama has the 9. It almost feels like that's a regional elimination game between those 2 programs. Like, I think that Kentucky needs to win a game or 2 to stay in the regional mix. I mean, look, if they're going to bang on Carolina for losing 4 straight series, how are you not banging on Kentucky for losing 6 of their last 7? So
yeah,
they don't have a sweep over a Florida, and South Carolina does, since we're going back that far.
Is
so
Auburn
I feel
the
that's an
biggest momentum team? Sorry, JB, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you didn't. No, they are. You're right. They are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
just like they were last year.
Well, they kicked it into gear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Auburn and Ole Miss got hot at the right time, so maybe the Gamecocks can do the same. It starts with Georgia, though, and for some reason, I don't know why I got lost on me. For some reason, I thought Georgia was a little better than 29 and 26 and 11 and 19. But who knows? Joel asked, who did they sweep? Who South Carolina sweep? Florida. The SEC champions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Georgia. They swept Georgia, too. Swept Missouri, too. Although, man, think about back to that Missouri. I was at Disney when that was going on, man. And think about the Missouri game our Missouri series, and the Gamecocks came back and won all those games. And I thought Missouri was going to be a pretty good ball team, but they weren't.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you today.
They swept Tennessee,
You want to know what the real difference is right now? One game, and it ain't what happened in the last 4 weeks. It's blowing that 4-run lead against LSU. Had they won that game, they'd be 39-6, 39-16. It'd be near impossible to take them out of the top 16, and they'd be in one game. So now, with that said, they played plenty since then. They could have won another game somewhere along the line. Which
right, yeah, plenty of opportunities. But no, you're right to the point that it was like that marquee win would have, because you swept them in the 2 game. Yeah,
that was it. That was it.
I'll also say this: I think the midweeks losing North Florida, even though Carolina was significantly better at midweeks this year, they did lose 3. Charlotte twice and North Florida once. I mean, that, especially that second Charlotte game.
Yeah.
You win 2 of those, you're at 40-14, and that's going to be hard to keep you from hosting at that point. But it's crazy. It's absolutely baffling to me that Mark Kingston at South Carolina has never won 40 games.
Yeah.
Hopefully he does. I mean, you'd think he'd get there this year, but man, it's kind of, I don't know. It's like I said, I'm not going to call it a collapse yet, but it's trending. They need to stop the slide somehow. And every time they seem to get a win and some momentum, the other, whoever they play next or the next game, they just get smacked right back in the face. So got to be careful and got to finally, it's maybe time to do something in Hoover for a change, so we'll see. We'll see tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow, no doubt. All right, we do need to step aside, though, for our final break of the afternoon. A couple of questions in here about Landon and Coach McDonald. Both guys, believe it or not, I know Dan McDonald a lot better than I know Landon Powell, which is crazy to think. So we'll try to answer that the best way we can. And also hat tip the softball team, the women's golf team, for an outstanding weekend as well. Softball 1-0. Short, but nice turnaround for those ladies this year. They were fun to watch. So let's hit our final timeout. Painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LemmyPaintSomething.com. The Still family, they're the best painters around. If you're in Georgia or if you're in South Carolina, they are Gamecock owned and operated. And they are the best priced as well, no matter where you are within our borders. LemmyPaintSomething.com. Hat tip to our friends at a couple of painters. Again, LemmyPaintSomething.com. We'll be right back. Year and the days of being back in the pool and boat are quickly approaching. Many of us don't have the time to hit the gym, but Charleston Fitness Equipment can change that for you. Outfit your home with a treadmill, elliptical, or my favorite, a home rower that allows you to row with the pros all over the world. They have free weights, home gyms, flooring, and much more that makes keeping or getting in shape much more convenient. Located in Mount Pleasant, visit CharlestonFitnessEquipment.com for more. Get in shape like our Gamecocks. Charleston Fitness Equipment, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Kevin O'Connell with Union Home Mortgage is a local mortgage expert and Gamecocks fan servicing North and South Carolina. Whether you're buying a home, building your dream home with new construction, or turning your equity into cash, UHM's world-class service will ensure you find the perfect mortgage to achieve your home ownership goals. Call Kevin at 803-906-0244 or visit UHM.com today. Union Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS 2229, LONMLS 1772182.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is Ethan Petrie from Land O'Lakes, Florida, and you are listening to the show with JB, JC, and Phil. Go Cox.
Looks up, and it is gone. 0-2 is sent to center, and this one is going to be long gone.
Shot the opposite field from Casas, and it's gone. 2-0. That's driven deep to left. Langford looks up, and it's gone.
Welcome back, everybody, inside the Gamecocks, the show. Final segment of this Monday show. Sitting here looking at all these comments. They were sitting, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we didn't. It's bad, at the end of a season to kind of fizzle out, right? Because here's we think about the football season and how it ended strong, right? And then we're watching this baseball team, and a couple of months ago, we're like, man, all right, book your hotel. We're all going to Nebraska, and now it's like, oh my god,
you don't ever.
We're counting on Hoover, and it's like now we're all sweating bullets.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever do that in baseball, anyways. I've never been one of those guys. It's. I remember multiple years when people wanted to fire Coach Tanner and it all worked out. This is a totally different situation. I understand that, but I'm really apprehensive to talk about any changes at all until the totality of the season is complete. You want to talk about the background of guys, if something were to ever happen, that's fair. Totally. Clint asked, what about Landon? You think he needs a higher level job, or could he be a Beamer like hire? I don't think that Landon needs there's this misconception out there, and you see it from time to time that he's got to go win at some mid-major school or something. That's not necessarily true. It's more along the lines of, is he ready? He can coach baseball. Coaching baseball is coaching baseball. Like, that's it. You can either coach baseball or you can't coach baseball. He can coach baseball. Landon can recruit. Is he ready for all the extracurricular stuff that comes with that job? That's a question I can't answer. I'm not going to attempt to answer. I don't know the answer. And Coach Tanner, as well as they know each other, probably does, and would be able to find that out even more if there were some type of scenario where there was an open position at South Carolina and Landon was interested in that. As far as Dan McDonnell is one of the best head coaches in college baseball, period, the end. There's those that want to question that don't know jack blank about the game of baseball. He's outstanding. I personally don't believe that he has received a lot of the support he probably should receive at Louisville outside of a rolling 7-year contract. Anybody that wants to hire Dan McDonnell, whether that be South Carolina or any other school out there, Alabama or God knows who else would like to, is going to have to pay a lot of money to do it. In order to get him out of his deal. It's a rolling 7-year deal with plenty of incentive. So, I haven't talked to Mac in a while. I know guys that have. I'll keep those conversations private. Is he shopping himself? No, he's not. Is there an opportunity for somebody out there to hire Dan McDonnell? I'd say there's as much of an opportunity as there is to hire any other guy, if you can afford to do it and if the timing is right. He is an outstanding head baseball coach. Dan has I believe both his son and his daughter went to the University of South Carolina as well, if I'm correct on that. No, his daughter did, because I remember the story he told me a few years ago where this caravan of vehicles pulled up into his front yard. This has probably been 5 or 6 years ago. He told me this story. This is a pretty funny story. If we ever have him on the air, I'll have him tell it. And they all had this Gamecock flags and stuff all over it, and he could not figure out what the hell was going on because it was May. And they weren't playing South Carolina in baseball, but his daughter decided to come home and was reluctant to tell him she was bringing 10 of her sorority sisters to stay at his house that weekend for the Kentucky Derby. So he looked out, he said, there's about 10 college girls dressed to the nines in my front yard. And I'm going, what are you doing here? I got to go to the ballpark. So, he's got, and he knows Coach Tanner very well. So if that's something that ever comes up, it does. But, he's got a lot of ties to the state, clearly, playing with Tony Skoll and Chris Lamonis at the Citadel, going to the College World Series, and the whole 9 yards. So there's my 2 cents on that. Is there going to be a position open in Carolina? I don't know. I hope not. you shouldn't hope that there is. Like, you should hope that all of a sudden they kick it into gear and they're in Omaha. So we'll address it at the end of the year if there's anything to address.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Thank you for saying that, Greg. All is well with me. I'm all good. Quantrell is a good question. This is a guy. Oh, Chris McCoy. He asked about softball and baseball recruits. Chris, I don't know about softball. I'll be honest. I watched my first Gamecock softball game ever last week. I'm lucky I know the players on the team. I'll maybe try to figure something out, but that'd be a good question for Whittle at some point. I know in baseball they've got the kid from up here in Chicago, the 6'7" guy, Walklaw, I think is his name. Is he going to come to school? Who knows? And then they're going to get in the portal again is their plan and get some more talent. And that's the thing. Louisville's baseball media, as far on the point of McDonald, they've been talking about how he needs to adapt and get in the portal a little bit. Maybe he's a little like Dabo, but their fans seem a little disgruntled. And he did make a public statement the other day, like, I love it here, but, I want to be in a place that's committed. Louisville just forked out a bunch of money for Jeff Brom. Their men's basketball is a disaster now, but they got Kenny Payne. So they got two quote-unquote Louisville guys in those positions. They got a new AD. So who knows what may happen with that. Quantrell, last question. Realignment. Do you think it comes down to TV executives calling the shots? Would it make commissioners less powerful? Been reading a lot on the ACC stuff. I don't think so at this point. And I think if there would be, it would be Fox, unfortunately, if you're a Disney or ESPN fan, because the Disney Corporation right now is struggling. Fox actually sold a piece of 20th Century Fox to Disney. Yeah. And they're a little leaner and meaner and making the right moves and bringing NBC and CBS along with them. So I don't know. I think TV will play a part of it, but maybe not as much as it would have a while back. TV money drives everything, but I don't know that the execs are going to be the ones going, hey, get into this conference, get into that conference. And as you can see with the Oklahoma situation, the Big 12 tried to sue ESPN for interference or whatever. And I think that got tossed out of court or they sent him a cease and desist or something. There was no proof. So
yeah,
we will see. Hell of a show, guys.
Hats off to Joel as well. Great comment there. McDonald's a better man than coach. He is. He's one of the great dudes in sports in general. He's an outstanding human being. So totally on board with that. Well done.
Nice. We did.
All right.
Made it through a Monday.
Always out of town. Dirty Myrtle until Thursday night working the streets. No, I'm just kidding. She's seeing patients. So I have four children on my hands until then.
That's all right. I sent the three women out to the house this morning, knowing that this was their last full week of either work or school. So yeah, they're all chomping at the bit, ready to get out of here.
Yeah. We're
and talking about 2027 kids, that's what makes me feel old. That's when my eldest is a 2027 kid.
Oh, okay. We'll put it, Jason, plug him in there somewhere.
Brandon DeCarry Joyner is a full-time running back now.
Yeah.
I know Beamer said he's going to play other spots, but that's just more of a
full-time,
like you move Juju McDowell around. Yeah. Or whatever. So, yeah, Brandon, full-time. Probably the starter.
And 76er, I do love you. I have no idea what comments you're talking about, but I do love you. We're so happy to have you in here every single day. Exactly. Hats off to you, my man. All right. Say hi.
Hey.
Hey.
No Gamecocks? No? Okay.
No.
What's yucky? What's yucky? Clemson? Yeah. All right. For Riley and Hannah, JC and Phil, I'm JB. Brad Crawford joins us tomorrow. We'll do some in-game stuff with you while the Gamecocks are on the diamond in Hoover. Join us at 11. We'll see you then, right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barn Co.